back to Overthink, the game show where I ask contestants a series of Overwatch hot takes to see where they stand. Feel free to play along in the comments to let me know what your opinions are on these hot takes. And if you'd like to actually be on an episode, go ahead and sign up in my Discord. I host these live on my Twitch channel most Sundays, so please go follow me on there to catch a show live. And lastly, please don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for more content like this. On today's episode, I brought on 5 one-tricks and 5 flex players, with the flex players being represented by Junker Queen and the one-tricks being represented by the character that they one-trick. Do one-tricks and flex players think the same? Let's find out. It is usually best to try to play what is meta. Go.
In most cases, it is necessary to go what is meta if you want to win. If you're trying to have fun with your friends, though, I'd say it's best to just play what you want to play. Like, say if you're going quick play or whatever, you can play like Roadhog if you just want to be a silly, goofy guy. But if you're playing comp and you play Roadhog, chances are you're not going to win unless you're like really, really good with them.
I think it probably depends a little bit on where your rank is. It's probably a lot more prevalent up in the higher ranks. I don't think you have to stick too hard to the meta. You know, there's some flexibility there. I think that's about it.
Okay, so I may be a flex player, but I somewhat disagree with this case. And I'm putting like my personal experience with this thing. So I'm a tank main, first and foremost. I play like Reine, Diva, Junker Queen. But Zarya's pretty meta like this season. Like Zarya's pretty strong. But I personally don't know how to play Zarya, so I just would avoid her. Because she may be meta, but if you don't know how to play her, how are you gonna like win with her? How are you like, what's the point of a meta if you don't even know how to play the character?
I kind of agree with Tricky over there in being like, you should probably, you know, play characters that you don't know really much about just in quick play. But I think especially in lower ranks, you should probably play the character that you know best rather than maybe play someone that you don't know very well, but it might be better, it might be more meta.
I think it's completely pointless to go entirely for the meta. I get the whole idea of, you know, playing what's best in meta, but if you're not having fun with it, what's the real point of it? I could play a meta character like Ana right now, but I'm not going to have fun, and therefore I play worse, and therefore I'm going to not rank up, and it all balances on how much fun you're going to have with a character, and I feel like if I play Brig instead of any other character, I'm going to have more fun, I'm going to win more games, I'm going to enjoy myself, and if it's not fun, what's the point?
There's no point in playing video games if you're not having fun. Like, I was playing Reine into Joker Queen meta, playing Reine now into Orisa meta, which is like terrible, but I mean, it works. You're one trick for a reason, you know how to play into your counters, I hope. There's just no point playing the game if you're not having fun.
I'm also very upset that there is like a smudge on the floor. I don't know why that's still there.
I can try and get rid of it.
I don't even know which character caused that. Oh god, you just made it worse!
The other one went away.
Oh my god! Having a one trick usually puts your team at a disadvantage. Oh, we gotta go again.
Whoops.
Go. Sheesh! So we have at least one person in every stance. Holy crap. Okay.
So usually having a one trick on your team is just gonna put you at a disadvantage. Cause say you are like a Reine one trick or something, and then the enemy's on Queen, and then you win first fight, then just switch to Orisa. If you're a one trick and you're not gonna swap, you're probably gonna lose like 9 out of 10 tries. No matter if you win first fight or whatever, or how good a try your hero. Like you can put Hottie against like even probably like our last was Orisa, and it probably would not be as easy as a walk, even though he's one of the best Reines right now.
I think that it definitely can put you at a disadvantage. Like if I'm playing Reine into Jib, it's pretty hard. Like there's gonna be times where like I have to swap just because it's pretty hard. But when it comes to like playing around counters, like I'm decent at playing around my counters. I know how to play into like Orisa and Bastion, but it's usually more often than not just map based for me. Like I hate playing Reine into Gibraltar. I hate playing Reine into Dorado second point. It's more map based than it is counter based for me.
So I'm really neutral because I couldn't really think of the definitive answer. It all really depends on your rank. If you're like a really, really good at Reine and you're like, let's say in bronze, or you're really good at Zarya, Widow, what be it, you honestly have to just play who you want to play and who you're good with in order to climb up. Now, like, let's say it's something like Diamond or Plat, where you have a one-trick Genji and the enemy team's just not having it, and they go Winston, Sim, Mei, you know, all that fun stuff. You're gonna have a harder time. You can still win, but it's just gonna be really, really hard for you to climb up the more you like insist on choosing Genji into the enemy team when they're running all counters or anything like that.
I feel like I somewhat disagree with this, and the reason why is because when you think about, let's say, Overwatch 1, people were working around having like one tricks, right? And I feel like that's kind of like a loss with Overwatch 2. Like, I get it, people kind of struggle flexing, but you can always make it work.
I kind of agree with Bayonetta. There's a couple different elements to it, as far as there's a map element, there's also a comp element. But I kind of disagree because it really depends on how much time you put into the character. If you've sunk a couple hundred hours into a one-trick character, chances are good that you know how to deal with your counters pretty well. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the game is not going to go well.
I understand where Bayonetta is coming from, but I completely agree with what Locke said. I've seen that with the more I play with my hero and the more I use it, the less troubles I have with counters and the less I see them as counters themselves. I just see them as an opportunity for me to just show off in a situation, basically.
I agree with the whole counterplay thing because while it may be disadvantages sometimes, it's not really important because you learn how to play against different counters, and that's sort of the whole fun of it. Because as much as I love playing with Jack of all trades, playing with someone named I Love Me Turret as Torbjorn that just entirely demolishes the lobby is the best thing you will ever feel in this video game. Any player can play against anything. I'm not convinced that anyone can absolutely counter another character 100% of the time. There's always room for skill to prevail.
Is there anybody who would like to change their stance?
Yes, please. I would just like to go to
I
someone
think
disagree.
me as well. Yeah, I'm gonna pop over here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we had somebody from neutral and somebody from somewhat agree. Both go to somewhat disagree. What changed your mind?
I think I was swayed a little bit. I was probably thinking of like the worst of the worst kind of one tricks, the ones that maybe don't provide enough for your team. I think I'm just used to feeling real disappointed when there's like a let's say like a diva one trick and then the enemy's going Zarya right now. That kind of example. I don't really blame one tricks if that kind of stuff happens because the game, it doesn't discourage one tricking. If somebody uses their spare time to one trick a single hero and they have fun, that's their choice, and they'll put value into a team most of the time. It's probably more of the fault of the game design or the matchmaking if it's just like a luck of the draw thing, like if you get a diva going into a Zarya.
I mainly changed my stance because everyone on the disagree side did bring up really good points, and I did put myself into the shoes into the shoes of a one trick pretty recently. I've been playing a lot more Doomfist more often, and you know how it is with Orisa, Sombra, what have you. And the more I played him, the more like I try to adapt to them as opposed to like, oh, they went Orisa, GG's. I would just try to persevere and continue on playing Doomfist. And the more I did that, the better I got with counterpicking the counterpick.
One tricks are better at their hero than non-one tricks are. Go.
If you put 500 hours into a single character, you're going to know a lot more niches as well. I definitely agree that they're better most of the time or 100% of the time, but is it worth it? Like, how much are you going to know over 100 hours extra over the next person?
I agree if you put, hundreds of hours into one hero, your mechanical skill with them is probably going to, peak way up at the top there. I don't know. If you're flexing to like, let's say like 10 different heroes, you're divvying up that mechanical skill and muscle memory into those skill sets. So it's probably not going to be as attuned to that one hero that you're really going for. Like Doom mains, there's some crazy Doomfist mains. I think you have to one trick them to really get like the movement down like that.
I agree, I somewhat agree. Obviously, if you put in the hours, you're gonna see results. But I think back to this one Uncle Iroh quote that says, it's important to draw wisdom from different places. If you take it from only one place, it becomes rigid and stale. And why do I think about this quote? Because you gotta play as the enemy to know how you counter your own hero. I gotta understand, if I'm playing Diva, I need to understand how Sim works, how Zarya works, just so I can counter them, just so I can play around them. So yeah, I believe that you gotta play as different heroes just to understand how they play, just so you can get better. better at dealing with them.
I mean, to somewhat agree, Stance, and I definitely agree with what Sage said. I do think that if I were to see two profiles and one of them has 100, 200 hours character and the other one has the same character for less hours, I will probably just assume that the 200 one is going to be better. But definitely, the more you have experience with other characters, you might just know specifically what you might want to do with a certain mechanic or in a certain type of gameplay. So you can always be surprised by someone.
I'm over here. I feel like some people might be surprised that I'm over here, but I think that I don't think time played is all that matters if you're not absorbing what's happening around you, if you're not taking into account all of the stuff you're doing wrong, or maybe what you could be doing differently. And if you did take two profiles that are of the same character and then look at their hours, the one that has like a ton of hours on that same character might be of a lower rank than the person who was like less hours. So I think that should be taken into account. Like me, 95% of my hours are on Mercy, but I'm not nearly as good as someone who might be a flex player on Mercy.
There will always be someone better than you at some point, even though it's hard to accept that. Not everybody's consistent, especially one tricks, and I know, like, again, it's hard to admit. But someone can be better at that game or even numerous games, but you cannot put yourself as the best in every single game.
Is there anybody who, after hearing everybody's stance, would like to change theirs?
I'd probably like to swap over just to right here. I really liked Sage's point about the Uncle Iroh quote. Makes a lot of sense to me. Just know thy enemy.
Flex players are a jack of all trades, but a master of none. Go.
I think I play pretty much every hero in the game. There's like only a handful that I would say I'm bad at. I can't play Widow, for example. I'm pretty terrible at Genji, but I can confidently swap to the most heroes. I think because I play so many different heroes well, I can't really master any of them. I'd really have to narrow it down and focus on at least like 5 to get really good, I think.
It's not necessarily that a flex player can't be the master at a specific hero. Just because they spend time on other heroes doesn't mean that they can't put a heavier focus on one, but just gives them the opportunity to flex out into other things if they feel the situation suits that better.
Flex players can only do so much and only learn so much per game, as they don't have a whole lot of time on one individual hero versus, let's say, like 3. As somebody who has played Mercy this 7 years of their life, I've been learning to flex a little bit more, whether it be on DPS, tank, support. I definitely do see some struggles as to playing other heroes as opposed to my main hero.
So flex players are usually playing like most of the heroes, but when you think of like a flex player, they play the hero that is like mostly good at that time. So say like Arista's meta now. They didn't play Arista as much before because they played like say Winston or Diva because that was meta. But now since Arista is meta, they are playing that. So they are going to get really good at that character because they are only playing Arista. Since most flex players are going to change throughout the metas and play what is meta at the time. Then one tricks just play like their one trick and only play that character no matter if it's good or bad.
I'm Melody, and I think they are kind of masters at certain characters. I think a lot of them play like one character more than another, but then they kind of like do dabble in others. But I think that since they play different characters, they kind of know how to play around certain other characters more than some one tricks might, because they play different characters into different comps like almost all the time. So I think I would somewhat disagree because I think they would probably know more about certain characters than some one tricks might.
You really do have to be a jack of all trades, because if they have like a Genji and they're like really, really good with it, with Genji, right? They're destroying your team. You can't really do anything about it except go like either Zarya or Winston. Just because you did go Zarya and Winston doesn't mean that you're going to automatically win. Your sheer presence isn't going to completely annihilate that Genji. You have to have game sense, their cooldowns. You have to really keep track of everything. And with Zarya and Winston, you really have to like know what you're doing in order to counter that Genji, because that Genji, more likely than not, did play against a lot of Zarya and Winston players to know what to do. So you also do need to know what to do in order to adapt to that situation.
For this, I will invoke the scientific method. If you wish to disprove something, simply show one instance where it is false. Super is the undisputed two-time champion and god of Reinhardt. Is he a one-trick? No, he is a flex player, but he is still the god of Reinhardt, and anyone who says otherwise is dead to me.
Get benched for Cluj. I'm just kidding, I'm kidding.
Wow.
Anyways, cool. Is there anybody who would like to change their stance?
I will, yeah. I think Milk definitely convinced me. I still somewhat disagree with the take, but it does have some truth in it. Like if you're like playing a certain hero, and whenever you get countered, whenever you just don't find value with her, you switch. How are you gonna learn?
I agree. Like, if you're a flex player, you're a flex player because you know how to like swap when you're getting countered. You're not really gonna be a master at it if you don't know how to play into the counter. But the one reason why I say I somewhat disagree is because there are going to be times where like a one trick does get beaten by a flex player at their own character. It sucks, but I mean it happens. So I can't say I fully agree, but generally I would say a one trick is better at playing into their counters.
You can make any hero work regardless of comp or map. Go.
People are just cracked sometimes, but even like aside from people who just are insane, you can definitely work around whatever's going on. I think back to this YouTuber called Six. He's an insane Roadhog main. He always beats Orisa like in a lot of occasions. So yeah, I believe you can make any hero work if you try hard enough and if you're that good.
So I definitely always think that you can make any hero work, any map, and in any comp. And it could be difficult at the beginning when you don't have a lot of hours, but definitely the more you play with the character, the more you're gonna learn its comps and the benefits of every map, because every map has its benefits and certain wins for every character. And no matter who you're playing against, I feel that you can always make something work and bring value to the team.
My decision kind of came down to a semantic argument. You can make any character work. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily optimal or there's not something that would work better. But if you put enough time into the character, you know how the character plays, you know how the other team's heroes are playing, you can definitely make it work.
I completely agree with that. I think that literally any character could work in any given moment. It just depends on what the other team is doing, what your team is doing, how if you're communicating well or not. But I do think that in this game, I think literally almost anything is possible if your team is willing to work with you.
So you can make a hero work, like any hero can work on any map, but it is like, say you're playing Li Shang like Control Center, and you're playing Hog against like Orisa Ana. 9 out of 10 times you're gonna lose if you're versing the same skilled players as you. If you're like a GM Hog player, which I don't know if they exist, and you're in like bronze or whatever, you can definitely make Hog work. But if you're playing against other people that are your skill, 9 out of 10 times you're gonna lose the game.
Right. Is there anybody that would like to change their stance?
Yes. So Akashi is gonna move to the somewhat agree. I will say that Bayonetta kind of won me over with the skill dependent. I do think that you need to learn before you're able to use that same character into every single counter.
Counter swapping is sometimes necessary to win a game. Go.
As someone who, like I said earlier, has learned to flex recently, it helps a lot. Let's say you have a very annoying monkey who's getting nanoed constantly, nobody's really killing him. Reaper is usually the best solution, always has been. Even Bastion now with his huge buff has like helped a lot, killing a lot of the tanks or like people that are just really annoying. But I mean, I feel like if you don't flex to, kill somebody, like it just kind of brings people down. Like I don't think people realize that Overwatch has very much been time-based, and if you take a lot of time to kill one thing, it's really bringing your team down.
I definitely think counter swapping is necessary sometimes. Like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So if you're just losing one fight after the other, you gotta switch something. You gotta do something. Like, if something's not working, then there's something wrong. You gotta switch.
So counter swapping is usually necessary, but there are times where you don't swap, because if you keep swapping, say you are on one tank, you lose a fight, you swap, you lose a fight, you swap, you lose, you're never going to get your all. And what if that all turns the tempo into your favor and then you start winning? So the counter swapping isn't always necessary, but most of the time it is.
This one was hard for me. I hardly ever come to a moment where I have to switch, and if I do, it'll usually be Moira, but I usually don't switch just because there's never really time where I really have to, but I get that the point is to kind of counterpick, but at the same time, it's kind of what I was saying earlier, where it's like, what if this is the only character in this role that you can play very well? I'd rather someone play the character that they know really, really well rather than switch to somebody that they might not know that well. So I get sometimes it would be best, sometimes it wouldn't. I'm completely neutral on this one.
Sometimes, like, you do need a swap. That's the only reason why I'm in somewhat disagree. Like, if you're playing on, like, for me, I'm playing Reinhardt into, like, Gibraltar, and everyone's playing a dive hero, and I can't shatter anything. I have to switch. But that's, like, a very, like, specific scenario. I don't think I'm usually in a position where I have to swap. If I'm getting hard countered, I'll just change up my playstyle.
I honestly do think that there's scenarios where you need to swap. Like, for example, if you're playing payload and you're in comp and you want to get a little bit more overtime and stuff like that, I'll try to swap to Tracer just to get there faster. That would be the only place that I would probably swap. In match, I'll probably just try to do my best as a one trick to play the one character I know the best.
As I said before, I don't think it's impossible to win any situation. And the definition of insanity, it's not insanity to keep the same player. You're assuming that you can't change up your gameplay within the confines of your character. There are ways to change up how you play. Maybe play a little bit more aggressive, play a little bit more safe, go a different route, take out different people. But there's still ways to adjust without, immediately switching to a different character as soon as you see a Pharah's Brig.
Is there anybody that would like to change their stance? Right, Tricky Piston, why'd you change?
Mostly as a way to just declare that I also hate counter-swapping meta. I wish it wasn't the case to have to do it all the time.
Counters aren't really a thing, though.
I don't think that counters are really a thing. I feel that there's matchups that are maybe a little more difficult, but I feel that if you change and you swap your playstyle to try to adapt to however they're trying to get you, I feel that you can always just get them and be better than them. I don't think that a countering is always like something that should impact either the team confidence or your own confidence. I feel that you could see it as a challenge, definitely, but just a way to improve in the character or find a new way to just fight this opportunity.
Pretty much what they said. It's not always rock, paper, scissors. You're not going to lose every single time if you're going up against your own counter. I think for the most part, it's probably true. But, I've been able to play Pharah against like 2-hit scans or something without a Mercy pocket. So it's definitely possible, but it is a challenge.
I do definitely think that there are some complete counters. I mean, in my free time in quick play, I play a lot of Diva, and ever since Zarya has come back from the woodwork, there's just there's nothing I can do. I cannot. I mean, I just immediately just say, okay, I just accept death, and then just never play Diva again as long as Zarya is around. So I do think that there are more. I think most of the people, when they say that there's like heavy counters, it can be. Most of those matchups can be won, but I think there are just some that just completely just don't even try.
I feel like the heroes are kind of designed in a counterplay fashion. There are, of course, different kinds of counters. There's soft counters and there's hard counters, but there are specific heroes that will counter specific abilities on other heroes, and they're designed that way. So there is an element of counterplay to it, but that doesn't mean it makes it impossible to play into that.
Fundamentally, counters are a thing in Overwatch, whether you do like it or not. I feel like that's the whole reason the Overwatch team decided to make the decision to have it so you can swap your hero after every death, or even if you just go back to spawn. It's to deal with what the other team is running. I feel like that's like not the basis of the game, but what the game not encourages, but it just gives you the option to do it. So like say there's a Pharah that's really annoying and you're running like Genji and some other projectile hero that I don't really know of. You do have the option to go 2-hit scan or 1-hit scan in order to deal with it. It's just a matter of if the Pharah can deal with it.
You saying that actually made me realize something that I've never really thought about. Like, I've always kind of known, but never really thought about. Most games don't let you swap your freaking character.
Right.
Valorant, you can't swap your character, right? Yeah, no, you can't.
No, you cannot.
League, you can't swap your character. Apex, you can't swap your character.
You also
Does
can't swap
Paladins
the
count?
Paladins.
Yeah.
Holy crap! I never like actually thought about that.
I actually disagree with this because every hero will have a counter. You know, like we had just mentioned just now, that every other FPS game that you choose one hero, you can't swap. So otherwise it just wouldn't be fair. And I feel like it doesn't even have to be hero based. I feel like it could be team communication based, targeting based, and even ability based, as like Lux had mentioned. It all just comes down to Overwatch being a team game and people working as a team, as opposed to just thinking they can 1v5 everything. Like, that's not how Overwatch is meant to be played.
Is there anybody that would like to change their stance after hearing everybody speak? Beep, you went from disagree to somewhat disagree. Why?
So I was in full disagree because I was thinking about it, and most characters have counters, but not every character has a direct counter. Like when I think of Mercy, I don't know a direct counter to Mercy besides, hey team, focus the Mercy. But when you think of like Genji has a direct counter like Winston, Zarya, Sim, May, anything like that. But there's some characters that don't have like direct counters besides your playstyle is like the direct counter.
So there I was, naked,
leak the DMs.
afraid, alone, ready to fight any hostiles.
That's me on
Doing one trick that he was
Friday
telling.
night.
Interesting message from Salty Fish.
To the 1, to the 1, to the 3. I play easy mode, and I play to win. I love to die, and I like to BRB. All systems checked out. Group up with me. 2 to the 1, to the 1, to the 3. I'm here to party. GG. A giant gorilla can keep up with me. You